Hello everyone, my name is Untitled and I'm a project manager at Odoo here in Belgium. I personally have a background in finance, so most of the time I implement finance-related projects. And that brings me to the topic of today, because I'm very happy to show you all new features in Odoo Accounting. But before we start, I would like to explain you why Odoo Accounting is such an amazing accounting software for accounting. Well, the answer is simple, because it's completely built by accounting experts. And when I think about accounting experts, well, first of all, of course, I think about our R&D development team that is working all around the clock with our product owners in order to make Odoo Accounting every time even better and better all over again. But about a year and a half ago, we also started a collaboration with accounting experts, because who else can assist us even better than experts in the field that are using accounting every day? Well, let me tell you that it was, and basically it is, a great success, because thanks to their collaboration, we managed to add more than 100 features in Odoo Accounting v13. So, how did it become even better? Well, first of all, let me tell you about our new stunning list views. You will see them all around Odoo, because it's not an accounting-related feature, but we have some examples that will make it better for the user-friendliness for accountants to use it in accounting as well. We added some new widgets on the list view so that you will spare time and you will not have to dive into the record itself in order to do exactly what you want to do from the list view itself. So what's in there for accounting? Well, when your accountants will go into the list view of their invoices, you will see that we added some new statuses with colors. Also, the due dates will be seen in days, and if they are already overdue, they will see in red so that we draw your attention at the right place at the right time. But also activities are now able to be planned immediately from the list view so that you can see the activities that you have to execute or that someone else has to execute. You will see them in red if they are overdue, in green when you have to do it. Now, we have a lot of new features in accounting, so I try to globalize them by major topics. And the first topic that I want to talk to you about is all about artificial intelligence and document management. Our team that is working on our artificial intelligence has done a huge job last year, and thanks to the huge effort, well, we managed recently to arrive at a 95.88% of recognition rate on vendor bills. That's a huge amount, and we believe that it will spare a huge amount of time to your accountants that they can use on things that are really good at, so that they don't have to use time anymore on useless manual input work. So let me show you how it works. When we scan a vendor bill, well, we will try to capture all information that you need to validate your vendor bills. We will scan the amounts, the total amount, as well as the subtotal. Also the currency and the dates will be captured. The invoice date, the due date, but also suppliers are immediately captured by the artificial intelligence. If the supplier already exists, we will find it in the database thanks to the name, thanks to the address, thanks to the website, thanks to the email. But also if it doesn't exist, we will create it for you right on the fly, so that you don't have to create it manually anymore. Also, bank accounts are immediately captured from the image, so that you don't have to add them manually anymore on your contact forms, and you can use them immediately in order to create payments in Odoo and create batch files to send them to your bank. Also, tax amounts as well as invoice references are immediately captured by the OCR. But of course, your accountants don't only lose time on recording vendor bills, also your other employees lose a lot of time by creating their expense notes. And that's why in Odoo 14 we also added artificial intelligence on expenses. So let's take Odoo take over all this time from all your employees, because we will capture all necessary information from your expense notes as well. The dates, the amount, but also all accounting related information is immediately captured by the AR. Now, we want everybody to use the power of our artificial intelligence, so that's why, as from now on, you can integrate it with your own software. That means that not only Odoo users can use the power of our artificial intelligence, but everyone else can now use it immediately with their own software. Now, we also want you to become a completely paperless company, because AI is great, but combined with a great document management system, it's even more powerful. And that's why in Odoo 14 we added a great nice feature in our document management system that will make you split and merge all your documents immediately in Odoo, so that you don't have to use any other software anymore, because you can handle it immediately in Odoo itself. Let me show you all about it. So let's jump into a Odoo database and start by diving into our Documents application. When we open the Documents application, you can see that you can create as many workspaces as you want. I have one here for marketing, one for HR, one for finance, and also one for internal use. We don't have only vendor bills that will arrive, also all other courier can immediately be sent to our Documents application thanks to an email alias. That's how we work internally at Odoo. We have a third-party provider that will scan all our paper mail and will send it immediately through an alias so that it arrives in Odoo. And the person that is responsible for the courier can just select it and select it to the correct department. So I have a contract for marketing, for example, here, as well as a publicity for marketing. I can just select the documents and send them to marketing. I also have an employee contract that I can just send to HR. And finally, my bundle of invoices for the third quarter of 2020, I can send it to finance. Now, when we dive into the correct workspaces, you can find the documents over there so that only people that can have access to the documents can see them. You can add some tags on there so that you can filter later on in order to obtain exactly the documents that you want, and you can add a user so that only a user can see his own documents. So we have other tags for HR and we have other tags for finance, for example, the type of document as well as the fiscal year. So we have a PDF file here with all invoices of the third quarter of 2020. Let's open it, because you can see here that we have a lot of invoices all together in one PDF file. So you want to treat them before you can send them to accounting. And that's why you can now click on Split PDF. When opening the window, you can easily split and merge the pages in order to obtain the correct vendor bills. Because this one is a 2-page bill, so I can just click over here, as well as this one is a 2-page bill. So I can click over here, and all useless information, I can get rid of it. So for example, these general conditions, I can just deselect them in order to get rid of them after. When I'm done, I can just use all the action buttons right above here in order to send it immediately to accounting. And that's what we're going to do. When we're done, we can just click on Create Bill, and from there on, I will send it from our Documents application to accounting, because they are completely integrated together. But we will not only send it to accounting, we will also send it immediately through our artificial intelligence, so that when your accountant arrives at his desk, everything is already prepared for him. And the 2 pages I want to get rid of, I can just click on discard so that I don't have to use them anymore. So we're back in our finance folder here. You can see that the documents have been splitted, and we have added the necessary tags so that you can filter easily later on. If you want to keep the link with accounting, at every moment you can click on a document and click on the link right over here so that you jump from documents in accounting and that you can keep track of how it has been processed in accounting. So enough said about documents, let's jump back to the home page and jump into accounting. When you jump into our accounting module, you arrive at this desktop and you can see immediately everything that is necessary to do. Your accountant can see the bills to validate, and it's of course the bills that we send from documents to accounting. When we click on there, we can see seven different bills. Let's open the first one. At every moment, at the right side you can see the image, at the left side you will see the input screen. Let's see what we have over here. So we have an invoice for fruit at work, for the fruit at our farms, for employees. We also have an invoice from the coffee provider. The third one is from Renewy, and you can see over here that thanks to the split I have a 2-page bill. So let's see what our artificial intelligence can do with a 2-page bill. The next one is the invoice about FedEx for transport fees, another one from the purchase of computer for our new business analyst that started last week. We also have an invoice from bpost, as well as the last one from UPS, and also this one is a 2-page invoice. Now, let's jump back to the first one, and basically they are already sent through our artificial intelligence when sending them from documents to accounting. Now, you can wait for a while in order to refresh it automatically, but if you don't want to wait so long as I want to do right now, you can just click on the refresh button, and by clicking on the refresh button, we will immediately see the magic, the power of our artificial intelligence, and see what has been captured. Not only the first bill is refreshed, all the other ones are also refreshed all together. So when it's done, let's see what happened. Well, first of all, I captured the vendor. What is important to know here is that the vendor was not existing in this database. I just created on the fly by applying our artificial intelligence. So the contact form has been created with the address information as well, but also the bank account has immediately been captured from the image and added on the contact form. So that later on, if you re-record payments, you can just have all the information to send your payment file to the bank. Also the bill reference, as well as the bill date and the due date has been captured, but the invoice lines has been completely captured as well. So first of all, we added a label so that in your general ledger you can keep track of it. Secondly, you can see the price, the VAT code, as well as the total amount. So all this information has been captured immediately from the image. So the last point is, what expense note should I use? What expense account, should I use? We don't want your accountants to waste time in order to select every time over and over again the correct expense account. So that's why artificial intelligence take over that point as well, because we will remember the combination of the label and the supplier in order to provide you the correct expense account for every vendor bill. You can see over here that I have been added the 62 account. It's a Belgian chart of account about office expenses. But if we jump to the next one, by the way, I always use my mouse for the moment. If you want to use the keyboard shortcuts, just push on Alt and you will see all shortcuts popping up. So to go to the next one, I'm going to jump to Alt N in order to see the next invoice. Also here, everything has been captured, what I said before. We had a big label here, and the expense account has been added as well. Now let's see what happened with the two-page bill. It's not a problem, because you can see that the total amount is on the second page here, but also this has been captured correctly by the OCR. We have another expense account here, so you can see that I don't even have to change it. The next one was from FedEx, another expense account again, and also a 0% VAT rate has been captured correctly. So then I have the purchase of my computer, and here we used an investment account so that by validating the invoice, Odoo will immediately create an asset and start depreciating it. Finally, we have the bpost account as well as the UPS invoice. What you can see for the UPS is that on the same invoice I have two VAT rates, one of 0%, one of 21%. Also this has been captured correctly by the OCR. So what do we have to do right now? Well, your accountant just have to validate all those invoices. He can do it manually by clicking on the validate button, but of course you don't want to waste time because basically the OCR has captured all information that is necessary to validate your vendor bill. So let's jump back to the list views that you can already see here, and basically the only thing he has to do is just select all invoices all together, go to the action button and post the entries. He posts the journal entries, vendor bills will be validated, and all accounting entries will be created automatically. So with a few clicks, I just sent all those invoices through artificial intelligence that captured all the information, and I just validated all the invoices without any manual intervention. So that's said about vendor bills. Let's see how it works for expense notes. I have our expense application right over here. And you can see immediately that everything that we're doing, you can use your smartphone as well. So your employees can use your smartphone in order to take pictures of their expenses and upload them immediately on the database so that the OCR will capture all necessary information. I'm just going to upload them manually over here. So I have 1 or 2 restaurant tickets as well as a parking fee. I'm just going to open them, and a little bit similar as for vendor bills, for every expense we will create a record and it will be sent automatically through the OCR as well in order to capture the right information. So let's open the first one. The first one is about parking fees. At the right side you can see the image, at the left side you can see the input screen. First one are parking, the second one is restaurant bill. You can even see the quality of the picture. It's not quite good. I think my little daughter played with it before I even could take the picture. But let's see what the artificial intelligence captured over there as well. And finally, I have a second restaurant ticket as well. So let's go back to the first one, and we're going to update this status as well. By clicking on the update status button, we will see what happens and what the OCR captured on the expense notes. Well, basically you can see that everything has been captured. The amount as well as the date, but also all accounting related information has been updated automatically. And how does that work? Well, behind the scene, we categorize all expenses in different categories. We have categories for food, for restaurant, basically it's the same. We have parking, we have travel, etc. All those categories have been captured behind the scenes, and you as a user, you can link it with a product. What is great about a product is that you can link an expense account to it, so that without even knowing anything about accounting, by selecting the correct product, your accountants just have to validate them all together in order to create the accounting entries. So we can see that the category was parking, so we linked it with the product parking, which is linked to the correct expense account. Let's jump to the next one. The next one was a restaurant ticket, and besides of the quality, we also captured correctly the amount, the date, as well as a bill reference, and here it has been categorized as food. So we linked it to the restaurant product, and also there the correct expense account has been taken over. And finally, the third one is also about restaurant, which has been captured correctly. So the only thing your employees has to do is just select all their expenses, create a report, and send it to an approval for their approver. Once they approve, it's available for accounting. They can select them all together and validate it in order to create all related accounting entries. And that's what I wanted to show you about artificial intelligence and vendor bills. So let's jump back to the presentation. Because a second point, a huge new feature in Odoo accounting, but not only in Odoo accounting, is about reporting. Because we want you to make great reports immediately in Odoo. And that's why in Odoo 14 we launched Odoo Spreadsheets. Because thanks to Spreadsheets, you can make complex reports with a few clicks and update them in real time thanks to the data that is already in Odoo. So as I mentioned, it's not only for accounting. You will find it everywhere else, because you can basically create a spreadsheet based upon every pivot table available in Odoo. So what's in there for accounting? We don't only work with templates. We don't only work with pivot tables. We also created some nice templates for you, so that in a few clicks you can immediately create a template, immediately created for you, and use the information in Odoo. So let me show you how it works. I'm going to switch company here, because I created also a company for reporting. Well, first of all, let's activate an advanced debug mode in order to have track of the accounting items. Let's jump into accounting and open the accounting journal items. Well, when you switch in the list view, you can immediately switch to the pivot view. The pivot view, you can adapt it based upon what you want to see on the screen, so you can use the power of our filters as well as the group bys in order to obtain exactly the information you want. And in order to avoid you to create it all over again, you can use the favorites, as I did, because I want to see only the P&L accounts per month. By clicking on there, it will immediately adapt based upon the information you want to see. So if you want to dive into it, you can just click on there in order to see the detail. But we're going to jump back, because I want to add some columns and some formulas based upon this pivot table. So let's click on Insert in Spreadsheet and create a new spreadsheet. And as from the moment that I click on there, we will take over all information from the pivot table in Odoo Spreadsheets. What is great about it is that all those information will be updated automatically when you create new accounting entries. And if you want to add some new columns over there or formulas, you can just create them on the spot. So for example, we're going to create a column for budget and one for the difference. We're going to add some budget on accounts. So for example, 10,000 over here, 15,000 over here, 20,000 over here. And also for my revenue accounts, I'm going to put a bigger budget, 100,000 and 150,000. Just put them in once, and now we can use formulas in order to calculate, for example, the difference. So I want to see the actual versus my budget, so I can add all your known formulas from Excel, and you can just drop it down. Also, for the revenue, I want to follow it up, and it's the difference between the budget and the actual. And now that you have the information over here, you can add a sum in order to see the total amount. So it's great to have a spreadsheet, but now let's see what happens if we create new accounting entries. So I'm just going to save it as P&L per month, for example, and jump back in our vendor bills. Let's create a vendor bill in the period of February and see how the report will adapt. So just create a vendor bill manually this time, select a vendor, put it on the correct date. Let's say that I wanted to do it in February, and let's create a huge vendor bill. Select the correct account. I want a 61 account, for example, and really let's put a huge amount of 1 million, for example. Well, when I validate this invoice, let's see what happened in our spreadsheet. In order to find the spreadsheet again, we're going to jump back in our documents application. Because you might have seen it already, because there is also a spreadsheet workspace where you can save all your reports. So I saved it over here, the P&L per month. When I open it again, you will see that the information is immediately accurate, immediately updated with real data from Odoo. And because I added some formulas, all the formulas are updated as well. So I mentioned that we also create some templates so that you don't have to create your report from scratch. So let's see how that works. When you're in the Documents application, you can just click on Create Spreadsheets and you will see the templates that we already created. We have a few, but we're definitely gonna add more in the future. So for accounting, I would like to have a quarterly budget report, for example. Just select the template and create it. And immediately, in a few seconds, in a few clicks, we create a spreadsheet for you based upon the actual information in Odoo. We added some budget here, but you can easily change it. For example, 6,000, 5,000, 4,000, 1,000, for example. And immediately everything will update itself based upon the information you put over there manually, but all actuals are coming immediately from Odoo so that you have an overview of your expense and your revenue accounts, and in a few clicks I created a quarterly budget report. And that's what I wanted to show you about Odoo spreadsheets. Let's jump back to the demonstration, because the next point I want to discuss is currency. We already had a few possibilities about currency, but we were not able to calculate the unrealized gain and losses yet in Odoo accounting. That's why now we added a new report, an unrealized currency report. This report will give you an overview of all unrealized amounts in foreign currency on your balance sheet, and you will be able to reevaluate it immediately as from there, so that your accounting is always up to date with unrealized gain and losses. So what does it look like? You will have this new report where you will see all open amounts on your balance sheet that you could reevaluate. You will see them grouped by currency, by account, and all open items that can be reevaluated. You will have some columns over there, because you will see first the foreign amount in currency. You will see the amount that it was in local currency on the moment of the invoice date, but you will also see the balance that it should be at the date of the report. And last but not least, we give you the adjustment that should be added to the accounting in order to update your accounting. You can choose different exchange rates in order to calculate them differently, or you can just use the rates that you added in Odoo before. So let me show you how it works. Let's jump back in Odoo and change company again. So when I'm diving into accounting now, and I go into the reports, I can see that I have a new unrealized currency gains and losses report. So basically this report will give me an overview. You must know that my accounting is in euro here, so I have some vendor bills that I created in dollar. So I can see immediately all globalized by currency. I only have one here, but of course you can add as many as you want. I only have open amounts on a specific account, which is my payable account, because I have some vendor bills over there in dollar. In the first column, you will see the amount in foreign currency. Those bills were all $1,210. At the moment of the validation of the invoice, the currency rates were different. So you can see that in the balance at operation rate, you have the translation in euro at the accounting date. And in the third column, you will see, based upon the date of your report, what the amount in euro should be, so that you have the total amount of the adjustment. So you can change the exchange rate right above here. If you don't want to use the ones that you configured before, you can easily change them and apply, so that the balancing current rate will be updated immediately. And if you want to jump back to Odoo's rates, you can just click on Reset to Odoo's rate in order to have the ones that you configured in the currencies. So the only thing that we have to do now is update the balance sheet. Therefore, we're going to click on Adjustment Entry, because we have an adjustment of 213 euros. Click on the adjustment entry and decide the journal you want to process that accounting entry in. So I'm going to go for a miscellaneous operation and add an expense account as well as a revenue account in order to calculate and process these unrealized gains and losses. Well, of course, they are unrealized, so if you don't want to use a P&L account, you can of course use a balance sheet as well in order to not impact your P&L. But I'm using an expense and revenue account in order to process it in accounting. You can select the date of the accounting entry, which is basically the date of the report, and we will automatically reverse it for you the next day after, or you can change the date if you want, so that you don't have to reverse it anymore because it's unrealized after all. We will show you immediately what the accounting entry will look like, and if you're done, you can click on Create Entry. So when you click on Create Entry, basically your work is done, because we will automatically post it at the correct accounting date. So from here on, you could leave it like that, but if you want to post it immediately, you can just edit and remove the Post Automatically button so that you can post it right away, immediately as from here. So now that we post this entry, let's jump back in the report. So if we open the unrealized gain report again, you will see that we have now this new accounting entry over here for 213 euros. That makes that adjustment is 0. And this is how you can treat now unrealized gain and losses in Odoo. Let's jump back. The next topic that I would like to talk to you about is all about taxes. Accountants have already a lot of reports in Odoo in order to follow up their bookkeeping result. But we didn't have a solution yet in order to track their fiscal result. So that's why we added now a new report that is all about disallowed expenses. Disallowed expenses can be expenses that cannot be deducted in a fiscal result, but can be deducted in your bookkeeping result. Well, from now on, you can create disallowed categories with a specific percentage, and it can change over time. If legislation changes, you can change the percentage and obtain exactly the information in the report in order to make a calculation of your fiscal result. Just go on the chart of account, on the expense accounts where you're recording them on, and link it to a category, and your job is done. Next point about taxes is that we made some minor changes on the tax report. In some localizations, they needed more possibilities for the tax return periodicity. And that's why we added, for example, every 2 months or every 4 months tax periodicity, because not every localization is following the calendar year. Also, thanks to this new periodicity, you will be warned at exactly the correct date when you have to introduce your tax return. And last but not least, we also made it possible to remove P&L accounts immediately from the VAT reconciliation journal entry. So we added this in Odoo 13, so that at the end of your tax period, you can just create a journal entry in order to reconcile all open amounts of VAT, in order to create one global amount to be paid or to receive from the tax authorities. But in some countries, like Belgium, some amounts of VAT are not deductible, so they have been taken into result and we don't want them in this reconciliation entry. Well, as from now on, when you jump onto a tax code, you can select the lines, the accounts that you don't want to take over in this reconciliation entry. So just jump onto the tax code, click on the columns, and you can just deselect the accounts that you don't want to take over in this reconciliation entry. Let me show you all about disallowed expenses. So, as you can imagine already, we're going to switch company again and jump into the tax company. Well, from here, when we dive into accounting, you also have a new report, and it's called Disallowed Expenses. When we open it, you will receive exactly that information. You will see all the categories with all the expense accounts linked to it, and in the columns, you will see the total amount for the period of the report. You will see the percentage of non-deductibility, so you have an overview of all disallowed expenses, so that accountants can use this report in order to act accordingly and make prepayments to taxes based upon the information that is already in Odoo. So how does it work? In the configuration, we have some disallowed expense categories. We have a lot of them. You can just create them on the spot, of course, give it a code, give it a name, add a start date, and add the percentage of non-deductibility. If it's changing over time, you can change it immediately with the correct percentage, so that for all future accounting entries, we will keep track on it based upon the accounting date. If you want to link it to expense account, well, jump into your chart of account, select your expense account. For example, in the Belgium chart of account, it's a 6 account. You will see immediately also over here that in the chart of account you can now make easily adaptations immediately from the list view. So you can change the name, you can change the code immediately without diving in the account. But if you need more specific information, just click on the setup button and you will see that you can now add disallowed expense categories. Just click on the edit button and you will have an overview of all categories. You can select one, you will see the percentage immediately, and from there on, all those expense accounts will be taken over in this new report. Let's jump back to the presentation. The next category is all about payments refactoring. What is great about this new refactoring is that we want your balance sheet to be updated at every moment and is synchronized with your bank statements. That's why the first thing that we added over there is on every bank journal you can now specify a suspense account. What is great about this suspense account is that from the moment that you synchronize your bank and that we will import all your bank transactions, they are immediately posted. The advantage of this is that your bank account is immediately updated on the balance sheet so that there is always a synchronization between your bank statements and your balance sheet. And the counterpart will be the suspense account. We will automatically update the suspense account as from the moment that you will start reconciling those entries, so that you don't have to take care of it, because we will automatically update it by reconciling the entries. We also add some new payment transfer accounts in order to track payments more easily, because there can be a moment between creating the payment and reconciling the bank statement. So that's why on the bank journal as well, you can now add two new accounts, one for incoming payments, one for outgoing payments. We're going to use those accounts when you create payments in Odoo, when you create your batch files in order to send to the bank. And as long as they're not reconciled with the bank statement, the amounts will remain on those transfer accounts so that you can track them, the payments that have not yet been reconciled. On the moment that we will reconcile them with bank statements, we will update them against the bank account, of course. We also made some changes in the reconciliation overview. Sometimes it could be tricky in order to find the difference between your general ledger and your bank statements. Because if you make manual journal entries on the bank account, well, you will have an unexplained difference between the bank statements and your balance sheet. That's why from now on you will be warned in your overview when you have accounting entries that were not reconciled by a bank statement. We will warn you immediately on the top of the screen so that you can just click over there and get exactly those journal entries and act accordingly. Also, the overview has been changed so that you can see you have an overview of your outgoing and incoming payments, those that have not yet been reconciled yet. So let me show you how it works. Let's change company again and take the payments company. When we jump into accounting, we have a bank journal over here, so let's dive into the configuration. You have the possibility to add your own suspense account right over here, and in the payments configuration you can add transfer accounts for out and incoming payments. So let's see what happens if we register payments on customer invoices and vendor bills. I have one over here, so let's dive into the invoice and register a payment so that we can use it later for a batch payment. Just going to create the payment for the customer invoice, and I'm going to do the same for the vendor bill. As from the moment that you add the payment, you can see I'm not going to use this bank account, just a manual payment. We will put them immediately in the in-payment status, and what's going to happen on your balance sheet is that if we take it over here, you will see that the amounts are now reconciled against those transfer accounts. And from the moment that we will reconcile it with your bank statement, we will update the transfer accounts against your bank statement, your bank account. What's not new is that you can still see the items to reconcile immediately on your bank journal. This bank is reconciled immediately with the bank, so all transactions are coming in. And as from the moment that they are coming in, well, we create, of course, still the bank transactions as well as the bank statement. So let's dive in the bank statement that I created over here. I have two payments that I have not yet reconciled, one for bank fees, one for an internal transfer. And when we click on the journal entries, we can see that they are immediately posted. So if we open the first one, we can see that the counterpart of the bank is a suspense account, and it will remain there as long as that we don't reconcile those entries. So let's reconcile them and see what happens. If we click on reconcile the two entries, well, the first one is bank fees, so I can easily click on bank fees, reconcile and create the accounting entry behind the scenes. Also for the internal transfer, I can just select it and validate. So let's see what happened with the accounting entries. We jump back into the bank statement and we can see now they have been reconciled, so it's ready to validate. When I jump into the journal entries, well, I can see that the first one, I can see that the suspense account has immediately been changed by the expense account. Also, the second one has been updated immediately with the internal bank transfer. So this is all about the new payments refactoring. The next point is all about implementing accounting. We noticed that a lot of customers use some applications without using Odoo Accounting as their legal accounting system. such as invoicing, such as e-commerce, such as inventory. All of those applications, of course, they are integrated with accounting. So they will create accounting entries, but when you want to start with your official accounting, you just want to import your opening balance. Well, if we don't do anything, the opening balance, together with all accounting transactions, will make double entries. So it can be a mess in order to cancel all of them, in order to start with correct accounts as the correct date of the go live of the accounting. So you don't have to take care of that anymore, because we will take care of all those previous entries. Just set the date that you would like to start with Odoo accounting as your official accounting system, and we will archive all unnecessary entries. Of course, you will not lose track of everything that you created up front. So all invoices will still remain there, but they will be put in a new status, an invoicing app legacy status. So that basically everything remains there, only the accounting entries behind have been archived. That's not the only thing. We can now also update sequences in batch. So how does it work? Imagine that you're working in an accounting system before and that you want to align your sequences when you start with Odoo. Well, you can now select a batch of accounting entries and resequence immediately in order to realign it with your previous accounting system. You can just select a lot of accounting entries, go to the action button, resequence, and you can immediately resequence, configure them all on the fly. So, for example, if you want to resequence, you can choose to keep the current order, or you can reorder based upon accounting date. And the first new sequence, you can define how it will be processed, so that all of them will be adapted immediately based upon those new sequences. Let me show you how it works. I'm going to change company again, of course, and dive into accounting. So I have a few customer invoices here that I processed before the go live of the official accounting. So I can just select them now, go to the action button and click on resequence. So I can see the sequence before and the sequence that it will have after. I want to reorder it by accounting date, and I want to change the sequence because in my previous system I didn't use the month in the sequence, I just used a numbering. So I can remove the month, and when I click next to it, I will see the sequence that it will have right after the resequence. So when you click on confirm, we will update the sequences immediately accordingly. So don't worry about the sequences, because you don't have to use it. If you don't want to use it, you shouldn't. And also the advisor accountant can have access to it. But also the log dates as well as the blocking on the journal is still active. So if you don't want to use it, we will block it for you so that you cannot change the sequence anymore. So let's see what happens if we want to start Odoo accounting on the 1st of October. We have some customer invoices over here, we have some bills, a lot of them. When we take a look at the balance sheet, we can also see that we have a lot of accounts over here, and in the profit and loss, we have the same. Also, if we jump into the age receivable, we can see some open invoices, as well as on the age payable. Now, I would like to start my accounting on the 1st of October and start with a fresh start. So we can now go to the configuration, scroll down, and you will see the new button that we called Invoicing Switch Threshold. Just select the date that you want to start with Odoo accounting, for example the 1st of October, and save. Now, what will happen behind the scenes is that we will archive all accounting entries before the 1st of October, so that you can just import your opening balance and start right away in Odoo accounting. So let's see what happened. If I take a look at the customer invoices again, well, you can see that they have now been cancelled, and if I open them, they have a new status, which is the invoicing app legacy status. Also, the vendor bills have all been cancelled, but they still remain over there with all the necessary information, but with another status. And when we take a look at the balance sheet, we can see that we start with a fresh start as well in the balance sheet as in the profit and loss. Also, the age receivable and the age payable has completely been cleaned. So you don't have to worry anymore by switching from accounting software, because we will archive all necessary entries just before. Let's jump back to the presentation. When we talk about accounting, of course we talk about localization as well. Well, there is a team that is working around the clock on our new localizations as well, and they've done a huge effort in the last year because they managed to add 3 brand new localizations. First of all, for Algeria, we added a new chart of account. For Finland, we added the chart of account and we created as well the accounting report. And for Sweden, we added the tax report as well as the electronic XML report so that they can upload it immediately on the website of the government. But we updated many more of them. So first of all, for Luxembourg, we completely redefined the chart of account and we created electronic reporting that they need over there. For Switzerland, we created a completely new QR code that they can use on their customer invoices that is different than the other one in Europe. For Denmark, we completely updated the chart of account and created their specific tax report. For Argentina, Chile and Peru, we added electronic invoicing so that they can use it in their localization as well. For Australia, we added the TIPA report. For France, we added a completely new chart of account, a completely redesigned tax report, as well as an update of the accounting reports. And from Romania, we added the chart of account as well as some tax reports. So to end those new features, I would like to show you two miscellaneous features that I'd like to present you because I think you're gonna like them. And the first one that I would like to discuss is the new Auditor Role. You can now give access to a user in the database only in read-only mode in accounting. So let's imagine that you have an auditor coming up or someone that you want to give access to accounting, but you want to be sure that he cannot mess up your accounting. You can now give him this new auditor role so that they can access accounting, they can see everything in accounting, but they cannot change anything. The second point is a preview of accounting entries. You might already have seen it during my demonstration, but if we create now accounting entries automatically for you, we will show you how it will look like before you validate them. So for example, if you make a transfer from one account to another, as from the moment that you select the account, we will show you on the bottom how it will look like in accountant. So no surprises, if you validate them, you can immediately see what will be the impact. So a lot of new features in Odoo accounting, I hope you're gonna like it. And to finalize, we have one more thing. We want you to use the full potential of Odoo accounting and benefit from all accounting features over there. And in order to benefit from the full power of Odoo, we would like you to onboard your accountant. Because accountants and customers are always working on two different accounting softwares. In order to benefit from the full power, we would like you to both work on the same database so that you can benefit each other from each other's work. Basically, the accountant can benefit from your work because you will use invoicing in Odoo so that he don't have to create all those invoices anymore because accounting entries will be created as from the moment that you validate them. But your accountant will create all your vendor bills so that he takes over all the information already so that you can use it to create your payment files. So by working on the same database, you can use each other's work and avoid double work. Also, you will not have to export anymore data from Odoo in order to import it again in his own software. And to make some publicity for that, and because we want every accountant to work on Odoo, we are now launching a new page so that every accountant can become an Odoo accountant, a registered Odoo accountant. And how it works, you can now just go onto our website and register yourself as being an accounting firm. By applying to become an accounting firm, you will be in contact with a consultant and we will onboard you in order to use all key features of Odoo. We have a nice e-learning that we just prepared so that you can, that in a 10 steps e-learning, you can start immediately using accounting in your accounting firm in order to manage accounting for your customers. So if you're an accounting firm, or if you would like your accounting to work on Odoo, don't hesitate to send them to the page and register themselves as an accounting firm, an official Odoo accountant. Because also our customers will have access to this page so that they can look for an accountant that works with Odoo so that they can work immediately in the same database. If you're interested, if you want some more information and if you want free assistance, don't hesitate to contact Antoine Vel. He will tell you all about it. So to finalize this demonstration, there is too much to say about accounting and I would like to point you some interesting talks because I was not able to cover everything. So first of all, if you want to learn everything about the new bank reconciliation tool, don't hesitate to follow the presentation from Richard. If you want to know more about consolidation in accounting, Cedric is giving a nice talk about that. I already showed you a little bit Odoo spreadsheets, but Eva is giving a workshop in order to dive into it and show you all the possibilities of budgeting and forecasting with Odoo spreadsheets. If you're interested to know what is the evolution of our accounting localizations, well, Jos is the expert in that, and he will give a presentation about that as well. And to make some publicity for myself as well, if you want to know even more about artificial intelligence, I'm giving a presentation about that as well. If you have any questions about my presentation, don't hesitate to talk with me immediately here, and I will answer all the questions on the spot. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope that you enjoyed the presentation, enjoy Odoo experience online, and I'm sure that you will definitely enjoy Odoo Accounting 14. Thank you very much.
So, hello everybody. So we are starting the Q&A session regarding what's new in Odoo 14 accounting, presenting by my colleague Winan. So I would like to thank him for the presentation, and we will start now the question. As we have a lot of questions, so probably that we cannot reply to all of them, but don't worry. Afterwards, at the end of the Q&A, Winan will go in another room to answer to the last questions. So I know that I have a lot of colleagues that answer already to a few questions, but we will repeat them to get sure that it's clear for everybody. So the first question was, is it possible to configure an email, Winan, to entry point for document app?
Yeah, okay, so hi everybody again. Thanks Melissa for the first question. I think indeed it was already been answered in the chat, but it's good to answer them again. Basically, it's possible to put email aliases on two different places. So first of all, you can just work with the accounting application and set an email alias on the journal so that the email will immediately arrive in the accounting application. But of course, if you work with the document application, as I showed in the demonstration, basically every workspace with the combination of tags can be set as an email alias. So you can define as many email aliases as you want. You can define them at a workspace, just only a workspace, or a workspace in combination with some tags. So if anybody will send an email to that email alias, it will arrive immediately in the correct workspace, and the documents will have the correct tags that you set up up front.
Okay, and I have also a question coming from Carl asking how will that work with multiple VAT amounts on a single invoice?
Okay, so basically the OCR can make the difference between VAT rates. So you have the possibility, first of all, to define in the settings of the accounting application, you can define how the OCR should read the lines. Do you want as many lines as are available on your invoice, or do you want one line per VAT rate? So if you're going, and I would suggest you to go for the second one, otherwise you will have as many lines as you have on your invoice. If you go for that second one, you will have one line per VAT rate. As you might have seen in the invoice about UPS, there was an amount without VAT, so we made one line without a VAT code, and there was one line with 21%, so we added a second line with the amount that is for 21%. So basically, if you have many different tax codes, we will globalize the untaxed amount per VAT rate so that you will have one line per VAT rate.
Thank you for your answer, Winan. I have a next question coming from Felix. Will the OCR also correct account done in the V13?
Yeah, so I think the question is about if all those features that I've showed here are also available in Odoo 13. So I think Florian, by the way, Florian is working in the team of artificial intelligence. I think he already answered those questions as well. As the OCR is, and I hope, Florian, I will not say something stupid, but as the OCR is not depending from the Odoo version, it's working on a separate server. So if they add new features to the OCR, well, basically it's not linked to an Odoo version. So it will be updated as well as in Odoo 12, as in Odoo 13, as in Odoo 14, because the OCR is already existing in the V12 as well. But of course, if we add in the future maybe some possibilities that need, for example, new fields in a new version, well, of course, those ones will only be applied on the new version and will not be in the previous version. But basically, the recognition of the artificial intelligence will work for all cross versions.
Okay. And according to you, what will be the biggest challenge for accounting in Odoo for the version 15?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first of all, I'm not a product owner, so I'm not aware of everything that they will add in Odoo 15. But I think, first of all, as always, there will be a huge effort that will be put in localizations, because it's nice to have a lot of feature in accounting, but if you don't have the localization, it's always a mess or difficult to start with it. So we recruited new product owners also for the accounting, so they will focus again on the localization part. But besides that, there will be also normally at Odoo we can never say when it will land, but at least there are some interest to change the dashboard of the accounting, as you can see it now with the different journals. Well, it will maybe potentially be changed in order to have exactly the right information on the dashboard. So the dashboard might be a new feature that will be added in 15. But also the part of payments as well as electronic invoicing will be new in Odoo 15, because we will try to add the possibility to connect even more banks immediately with the new technology in Europe. For Europe there will be a lot of changes for the bank synchronization, but as well to send immediately payments from Odoo. And for the electronic invoicing part, well, I think the team is working hard to become PEPL compliant, so that we become an access point of PEPL, which is great because it's across a lot of different countries, so that we can send immediately electronic invoicing from Odoo, so that you don't have to send a mail anymore, that you don't have to send a PDF anymore to your customers. If they are connected to the platform, well, basically the electronic invoice will immediately be sent from Odoo and captured if they are working with the software that is compliant with it as well.
Okay. I have several times the question regarding the fact that the OCR already exists in the version 13 and the version 12. So maybe that you could explain to everybody what are the improvements that you brought via the new version.
Yeah. So as I told before, well, basically, as I said, the OCR is not linked to a version. So basically the question will be a little bit different. What is new in the OCR and what is not new in Odoo 14? But as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, maybe some of you were not connected at that time yet. The team basically has worked, did a lot of effort in the algorithm behind the artificial intelligence. So it's not visible immediately, but basically it's the most important part, because the recognition has been continuously improved and the algorithm is continuously improved as well. But besides that, for the visual part, as I showed in the presentation, maybe you can see it again after, they added the possibility to add bank accounts as well as Swift codes immediately on the contact form, so that it's captured immediately from the invoice. There is a better recognition for vendors. There is a better currency recognition as well. And basically the huge new feature for OCR, I think, is that we can now also add it on expenses and not only on vendor bills anymore. But for me, the biggest part in it, the biggest change is that the algorithm is becoming way more mature, and I tested it myself. I also have a lot of customers that already came back to me and that are surprising by the power of our recognition. So I think that's the most new part in the artificial intelligence.
Okay, so we are becoming powerful with the artificial intelligence then.
Absolutely.
So I have also a question regarding spreadsheets built in-house by Odoo. They are asking if we are using LibreOffice.
Okay, so first of all, there are a lot of talks during your experience about Odoo spreadsheets, so don't hesitate to follow all of them, because it's a huge new feature in Odoo 14, not only for accounting, but cross-application. So it's important to follow those talks, because they go way more in depth than I did during this presentation. But can you get rid of LibreOffice? I'm not sure, because we don't have all those possibilities. We added spreadsheets, Odoo spreadsheets. It's not Google, it's not Microsoft, it is our own Odoo spreadsheet. So we developed it completely ourselves. But First of all, maybe in the future we will add more functionalities that are not only spreadsheets, but maybe other parts of the LibreOffice as well. But for the moment, I would say no, you cannot replace it because we only have the spreadsheets part. And basically, we added already a lot of functionalities in Odoo spreadsheets, but we don't have all formulas, for example, yet. So it will continuously improve, but the idea behind it is basically to use the data in Odoo, so it's not to be used outside of Odoo yet.
Mm-hmm. Can you also tell us, if there is a limit for the scanning of the invoices?
So is there a limit for the scanning of the invoices? But basically there is no limit. Not sure if it's clear for everybody, but it's also working with in-app purchases. So you have to buy credits for it. You have to use credits. When you start a database in Odoo SaaS version, you get 200 credits for free. Once the credits are over, you have to purchase credits in order to use the artificial intelligence. It's not a lot. It's basically between 10 and 15 cents a scan, I think, but there is no limit. No, you can add as many as you want, and it can be multi-page as well, as I showed during the demonstration.
Yeah, sorry, I will have to stop you, Winan. Yeah. I know that we have a huge amount of questions, so as I told you at the beginning of the talk, it means that Winan will stay available for all of you, and he will switch to another room. Normally you will see it on your window. You can access on it in a few minutes, and then he will continue to answer to all of your questions regarding the new version for accounting. Thank you for your interest.